All right, you guys, as always, we're live streaming. We are here to answer your questions when it comes to business, strategy, marketing, inner game of coaching, consulting, information, entrepreneurship, here to serve you guys. Yeah, this show is really fed by your questions. And honestly, I personally feed on your questions. So the more questions you have, the more, or just, whatever you're struggling with, whatever I can help unblock you on, that is what feeds me. That's what feeds the show. So it's a great act of generosity when you show up and bring your questions, because that's what makes the show lively and engaging. But for now, off the top, I'm just coming out of a meeting with a group called Baby Bathwater Institute, which is a pretty strange name, but it's a business mastermind. I think there's probably something like 200 members in the group. A bunch of founders, mostly US based, but really from all over the place, all over the world. There are people from Australia here. I had a really great conversation with someone who is from Zimbabwe. He doesn't live there anymore, though. He lives in the US. But some amazing folks at this group. And it's one of the things that I've started doing more recently, is join these kinds of mastermind groups, business groups, entrepreneur groups. And it's been incredibly enriching for me. Friendships, relationships, business connections, insights, shifts, and just a sense of community and connection with other people who are in a similar situation, is like realizing we're all just people. We're all, having each of our own individual struggles and dreams and ambitions and hopes and all of that, and being able to just meet as peers and learn from each other is really phenomenal, really amazing. Like, for example, in a business context, one of the things that we're working on right now for Simplero is our joint venture, our affiliate program, our trusted advisor program. So like growing, as you can acquire customers at the high level through 3 different means. You can do paid advertising, you can do organic, so social media search, or you can do joint venture partner traffic. So paid, partner, or organic. Those are the kind of 3 big buckets. I'm a huge fan of partner because you don't pay. The problem with paid is you have paid ads, is you pay whether you make money from the transaction or not. And oftentimes it's a lot of work to dial that in with the creative and the targeting and train the pixel and all these things before paid works for you. And all the while you're trying to figure that out, it's costing you. You're paying up front and maybe getting a return. Organic is similar. You pay up front to create content and rank in the search engines and all that stuff, and maybe it'll pay off over time. The beautiful thing is, once you rank, it'll continue to pay off, and it's much easier to stay that way. Whereas with paid, you have to keep paying. But partner probably is my favorite, right? Because if there are people who have your audience, then you only pay them on the actual revenue that you make. You don't pay them anything until you make something. You both win together. You're both making money together, and you can build relationships with real people that you actually care about as these affiliate partners or JV partners. And you're paying your friends, your peers, instead of paying, a big corporation like Facebook or Google. So I'm really big on partner as the way to grow. And so I'll tell you, so I was asking in one of these groups, hey, who knows a good affiliate manager that we can hire to work for us in our affiliate program, who already has the relationships in the industry to bring in some of those big name JV partners. And so last night I was sitting down around the campfire, and one of the guys in the groups comes up to me and he's like, hey, you're the one that was asking about that. And I'm like, yeah, that was me. And then he said, all right, great. I have a good friend who is, she trains affiliate managers, and she'll definitely be able to connect you with the right person. And so he gave me that. He offered that. I was like, that sounds great. I would love that introduction. So he made that introduction, and now I'm scheduled to meet with her number 2 later today and discuss that. And just that's how quick things can go when you have access to the right networks, to the right community. And what I have found is, like, if I had approached this guy just blind, just, you know, cold, being like, hey dude, like I can you help me find the right affiliate manager? That you would be like, who are you? Why should I care? But because we're now in this group and we're meeting there, and this isn't the first time we've met at these events, so we have a little bit of history there. It's just like, people are just so willing to help and so friendly. And in a group like that, like everybody that you want to reach, every kind of resource that you need, someone in that group knows that. Someone in that group has that connection, that resource, that insight that you need. And so it just makes a ton of sense like that. And people want, it's funny psychologically how that works, but like once you're in that room, in that group, people are generally extremely willing to help and support. That's big. So that was this week. I was up there. I've got another couple days in Austin before I go back to New York. The other thing that I wanted to share with you guys is about how, what I find is that your growth, business-wise and personal-wise, like in any area, the most important thing, like 90% of the work, is you believing that it's possible. 90% of the work is you believing that it's possible to achieve what you actually want to believe. What you actually want to achieve. 90% is you believing that it's possible to achieve what you really want to achieve, and then believing that you can actually have it on a compressed time frame, that you can actually have that quickly. Once you really fully believe that, executing it is actually easy. Until you believe that, it's always going to be a struggle, because you're always going to be sabotaging yourself. You're always going to be working against yourself. And I found this to be true in my life over and over again. I see it with clients, with people that I work with over and over again. I see it with peers over and over again. You believing that it's possible is 90% of the job. Once you fully believe, it will happen very quickly, very quickly. So most of you guys, you're putting your attention on the wrong stuff. You're putting your attention on like, oh, what is the thing? What's the thing that I need to do? But the vast majority of your actions are determined by your unconscious programming and by your unconscious beliefs. And so if you're unconsciously not believing that it's possible, or even consciously not believing that it's possible, then you're working against yourself. I saw Kenneth writing here, like he said, it's kind of hard to find partners if you ask me, especially when you're new. And that, like I don't know the details there, right? But like instantly when I see that, right, that's a belief that says it's hard to find partners. Well, if that's your belief, then that isn't exactly going to help you, right? So a better way to say it is like, what would have to be true in order for it to be easy? Or in what reality would it be easy to find partners? I will say for me, those instances where it's been difficult to find partners, it's always been because I didn't fully believe in myself and my offer. And I don't know if that's true for you, but I know that that's been true in my case. It's been that I wasn't fully bought into myself. And then when I approach someone that I want to JV and partner, and I'm not bought into me, then how can I expect them to get bought into me, right? So obviously it's going to be hard when you approach it from that angle. And I'm not saying that that's what you're doing. I'm just saying that that's what I see. That's what comes up when I read that statement.
Man, Kevin, that's pretty powerful, man. that's pretty good. What's the enthusiasm quote? The last thing is, you need to be sold yourself. I am sold myself, I think is the kind of the quip that people have, and I think that goes a lot with belief, because people can smell it. You walk like you believe yourself, you talk like you believe in yourself, you emit that energy, and particularly when you're trying to network. That's big and powerful.
It really is. And I think for me, like, it's something that I've heard, obviously, and talked about for a while. And then sometimes it's easy to fall into, oh no, I just gotta like focus on the work and, you know, all of that, like, you know, giving me the tactics and strategies, and it's difficult and all that stuff. But I will say that, again, in my experience, there's always an inner shift that needed to happen. An inner shift about like what I've noticed about myself is that resistance shows up in a physical way, like as tension in my body. It can be in my belly, it can be along the backside of my body. That's where that resistance shows up. And then when I allow myself to just surrender and relax into that and not try to control the outcome, like part of it is, for me, it's like, not, this stuff doesn't happen on my timeline, stuff happens on the universe's timeline. My job is to believe that it's possible on a compressed timeline, right? Most people have an idea like, yeah, I can do this, but like, maybe I can do it, but it's going to take a long time. Change that belief to, no, you can actually do this in an instant. You can do it or very quickly. And I don't need it to happen quickly, because there's no neediness in me, because I love myself. I love my reality. I love my life. I love everything about it right now. So I'm not needy for anything to change quickly. I know that I'm supported by the universe. I know that I'm safe and loved. I don't need anything to change quickly. And I'm open to it. I believe that it's possible. So playing in that space of believing yourself, believing it's possible, but also not needing anything, is a very, very powerful place to be.
So what do you mean, like, if we don't need anything? Because that's an interesting tension, because we have bills, we have spouses, we have kids needs tuition. And how do you embrace that, you know, reality, ignore that reality rather, than trying to still say, like, I don't need anything, I'm content? Like, how do we do that?
Yeah, like, you're okay in this moment, right? You're upright, you're breathing, you're able to be here and focus, like, you're okay right now. If you think back to your history, you've been okay every single moment. No matter what happens in the future, chances are you're going to be okay. Regardless, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And so any idea of the future is just an idea. It's just a story. It's just a belief. It's just a thought. So right now, I'm okay. Right now, I don't need anything. I'm okay. Like, really center in that, because anything other than that is a story about the future, which is completely made up. Like, it only exists in our head. It doesn't exist in reality. So really rest in that truth that you're okay right now, and then act from that, from being okay, from not needing anything. Like, all right, what do I want to do? We're taking actions for sure, right? But I don't need anything. It's a different energy. Like, I want something. I envision something. I'm creating something. I'm wanting to have an impact. I wanted to touch people's lives, because that fills me up. But I don't need it.
So you feel like we need to be content and whole individually,
Mm-hmm.
and then detach every other external pull or any external want or desire from our internal mental state. Is that what you're trying to, saying, or am I jacking it up?
I think so. It's like, yeah, content in the moment. Like, so something that came up in several conversations that I have had over this week was about people who are very successful, and they got very successful based on fear, based on wanting to get away from. They grew up in poverty, and they're like, I'm not going to be poor, and I'm going to figure out how to make money. They made a lot of money, and they're good, and now they're that's great. It's like a survival strategy to go make a lot of money. But now they're stuck in that survival strategy, and it doesn't work for them anymore, right? It's making them sick or unhappy or stressed, whatever. But they're afraid to go in and tinker with it, because, like, what if I break it? Right? What if now I go actually learn to feel good and be happy and not feel this like need to make sure that I make money so that I'm safe. Like, will I lose my ability to make money? Right? They're scared of that. So I see that a lot in people. And that is that transition. It's great. Like it's, if you're in poverty, like it's good. It's fine to have that momentum, like, or fuck, I got to make this happen. If it's working, right? That's helpful. Or at least it's not terrible. It's pretty good. But then eventually make that transition into actually being happy and loving and finding a different source, a different motivation, for a different drive for what you're doing.
Man, that's fire, man. I think people, Anne
And
says she's loving every word of it. This is great. This is great.
and chances are that you're going to have a period, like when you make that shift. I made that shift some years ago. I remember like way back in 2012, I was living in India, and all of a sudden my recurring income was where I didn't have to worry about money, right? Recurring income, I knew it was going to keep growing. Like, I'm like, I don't need to worry about where the money is going to come from anymore. It was a profound moment. And it was like this big weight lifted off my shoulders. I'm like, like, okay, like now what do I want to do with my life? Like what, like now what's this about? Like now it becomes about contribution. It becomes about creation. It becomes about, other stuff. But not survival. And oftentimes there'll be a period where you're just exhausted from running so hard for so many years. And maybe there's a couple months where you're like, I don't have a motivation to do anything. And you're going to be scared, like, holy crap, like, what if my drive never comes back? But it does if you allow it, if you go through the process and you allow yourself to work through all of that baggage, and then you come out the other side, knowing yourself at a deeper level, connecting with your heart, connecting with your purpose. And now you want to create from that place and not from fear and survival.
That's amazing. Could you, when you're saying this, right? So I'm thinking about like the elements of like what we need internally, or the nutrients that our soul needs, right? That are different than what like we need in the physical. So it's like in the physical, we feel we need money, we need housing, all these things. But our inner doesn't need those things. You're saying like it needs purpose, it needs love, it needs those core things that we should live from, instead of trying to live from the stuff that we deem it, that we have in the physical world. I mean, I'm sure I'm not saying it the best way, but we live from purpose is what you're trying to say. The more we can detach from stuff and live from purpose and who we really are, the better off we can exist in the physical expression of life. I'm having enlightenment right now, man. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say it right.
Let's go. The way I think of it is when we're living in alignment with our design, with spirit, with life itself, things get really flowing and easy and nice, right? It's good. It's, you just stop resisting, you stop trying to control things, you stop trying to make things anything that they're not in this moment. Like there's so much ease there. And then we can start, then it becomes a game play, right? Like, oh, great. Like now what do I want to do? Like, hey, this could be fun. All right, let's try that. And whether it works or not, quote unquote, works, right? Whether it does what you had in mind or it does something else, you just roll with it because you have no resistance to whatever it is. And so like when there's no resistance, there's no struggle, there's no pain, it's just like, hey, great. Like, it really becomes pure joy. And even when there's negative emotions, right? Even when there's like things that come up, and because that's what's going to happen because we're humans, right? Stressors and like fear and anxiety and triggers and whatever, like if you don't resist any of that, it's not really painful or bad. You just keep rolling with it. Let's hear Kara. Bring her on.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Yeah, thank you. That's really powerful. I love that. And something that you mentioned got me thinking kind of about cycles and how we sort of have different cycles of like, we may have, or I mean, this has been my experience, and I'm curious about where everybody else is as content creators and as business owners and so forth. The last few weeks have really felt like a huge creative like boom in my world, in terms of
Mhm.
like a lot of ideas coming, a lot. And I think that the show actually, or this platform is helping that happen, you know, because it gets us out,
Totally.
it pulls us out of the details of like, okay, what's my to-do list? And it gets us thinking like from a higher platform where we can look
Mhm.
at our business more holistically and be like, what am I trying to do here? You know, which is so valuable. But I mean, I feel like there are, or I've noticed that there we can have these like creative cycles, and they can feel really great when we are in this creative boom. And then there seems to be like kind of a natural contraction back, you know, where it just doesn't seem sustainable to always be like, oh yeah, and this idea, and this idea, and I'm going to work on this idea. And it's kind of like it like expands out and then kind of contracts back in. I don't know if this is something that you've experienced, and I'm curious about like you and others, if you're also experiencing the kind of boom period right now, like if it's more of a universal thing or.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, I'm definitely experiencing it right now. So yeah, maybe it is something. Maybe it's our own little corner of the universe. We're creating that. There's at this place that we were. There was a observatory, so we saw some stars and
Ooh.
about like the galaxy and the Milky Way and the what was it like whatever like the cluster of galaxies that the Milky Way is part of is like, whoa, it's like the universe is just ginormous. It's fucking crazy. Anyway, so like I was just saying, maybe it's just our little corner of the universe here that we're feeling this boom. Maybe it's much bigger. Maybe it's galactical. Who knows?
Yeah.
What I will say is, what I'll say is I think there's a natural, just like the in-breath and the out-breath, in-breath and out-breath, right? There is that cycle. There's always going to be that cycle of yeah, more expansionary, more contracting, right? There's spring and then there's autumn, and it just life works in those cycles. And you know, just like when the tree is losing its leaves in the fall, it doesn't stand there crying saying, oh no, terrible, I'm such a bad tree, look at me, it's awful, right? Like, again, if you don't resist it, it's totally fine. The one thing to look out for is what my friend Gay Hendricks calls the upper limit problem, where we have this set point for how successful we can be, how much love we can allow into our lives, how much well-being we can have. And we tend to operate in that way, that we have that set point of what's too much or what's appropriate. And then if it gets beyond that, we get uncomfortable, and then we do something to pull us back down. So just watch out for that. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. His book is called The Big Leap. It's really big. And he identifies like a handful of different patterns that can tend to pull people back. And the things that people tend to do is they will worry, or they will have an accident, or they will lose money, or they'll get in an argument with their spouse or something like that. Like a lot of times you see couples and there's just like some great thing happened at work, and it's Friday night, and now you finally getting to spend some time together, and you're really excited to have dinner, and then you start some stupid fight over something, right? Classic upper limit kind of problem, right? Like, it's too good, it's too much, can't handle it, let's take it down a notch. And he identifies some of the like feeling unworthy, feeling like a burden, feeling there's something fundamentally flawed about you, things of that nature that are kind of the underpinnings. For me, definitely, like feeling fundamentally flawed was a huge one. So yeah, worth paying attention to, so it's not that, right?
Yeah, I love that. And I love also, I mean, there are comments here about, there being seasons for things, and some of the woo stuff, which I love. So
Totally.
thank you. Like the lunar eclipse, and it's Scorpio season, and 11/11 is tomorrow, and all this. Yes. I totally love that. And you bringing up the galactic piece, because when I was out watching the hashtag woo stuff, when I was watching the lunar eclipse here on Monday morning, I think it was, I saw like 3 shooting stars, and then I saw another, or no, it was Tuesday morning, 3 shooting stars, and then also saw a shooting star last night. So I'm like also tapped into like what is going on in the galaxy that, I mean, just like I don't see shooting stars very often.
Yeah.
But I think it's so helpful to remember the seasons, which is one of the reasons I brought it up, because that expansion and contraction, to me, like the expansion feels so good. And the contraction can feel a little bit like, wait, why'd I lose it?
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but I definitely have. Where
100%.
I'm like, wait, why have I lost? I've lost my mojo, or I've lost,
Right.
whatever. And so it's really helpful because we can hear these things like so many times, and so often it's a matter of remembering it. So I'm
Mhm.
like helping myself to remember, and then hopefully
Yeah,
we can all benefit too, because I think it happens probably to all of us.
totally. I'll tell you what tends to happen for me, and you can let me know if that resonates. Is so I'll have like things will start to really flow, and I'll be like, oh, this is amazing. And it's kind of unexpected at first. I'm like, whoa, like this is so cool. And then I get greedy, right? Then I'm like, oh, this is nice. I want more. Like, all right, I need to keep this going. This is so good. And then I start to get controlling around it. And then like at some point, like there's going to be a dip of some sort, right? And then I get really annoyed with that. And then, so that's where it shifts from like, hey, it was kind of just flowing and allowing. And now I get into this like tighter and tighter kind of frustrated controlling space. That's the clue to like if you can avoid all of that contracting around it and just being in wonder and awe of the amazing things that are happening, and even non-judgment, right? Like, hey, maybe they're amazing, right? Who knows? It mightn't be leads like the more sort of neutral you can be about that and just ride it wherever it takes you. And then when it changes, like just ride with that and enjoy it. Because there's something beautiful about the fall, about the autumn and winter and all of that as well, right? And metaphorically also of like, yeah, there's all this expansion, and now I get to kind of like you expand it too much. There's some of that stuff that is not really like, it seemed like a good idea at a time, but it's not really serving you. And like now you get to kind of really ground and sort through and really integrate that new version of you. So I think just enjoying that process as well. So,
Yeah, that integration is so important.
mhm.
I love
Yep.
that. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for the comments too. And I love that too. It's not woo-woo. It's a different plane. I completely agree. But it's also kind of, fun to tease about woo-woo. But I'm totally woo-woo.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing about myself.
I remember reading in the Steve Jobs biography, it came out shortly before he died, about how he was like, Walter Isaacson asked him like, so how spiritual are you, or how much do you believe in that kind of stuff? And he's like, you know what, like Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays I do. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays I don't. And Sundays I'm like, I'm not so sure.
Hold everything lightly.
Right. And I think also it's like it's natural, or it's not uncommon to kind of be a little wobbly in that stuff. Like I feel like, I mean, for me anyways, like then I'm like I get away from it, and then I remember, and like it's again like everything, there's cycles. And I think it's like finding the right level for you also, right? There are lots of people who are very, very woo-woo, but to me feel kind of like they're lost in that world. And then there are other people who are like not woo-woo at all and kind of lost in 3D world. So I don't particularly want to be lost either place. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right. Bryson, you had a
Yep.
question for me earlier today.
I did. I have another question though. This is
All right, go for it.
immediate though. So, are you saying that as an entrepreneur, it's like our initial mindset is to try to systematize the expansion, and that's not natural or possible. Like those up moments. Is that what you're trying to say? Or is that what you're saying?
No,
To
I'm
just
just
let it
saying,
be?
I'm saying more like at a psychological level, I get hooked on it. I'm like, it's amazing. And I started envisioning a future of like, oh, if this keeps going, like this is amazing. That's gonna feel so great. Oh, gotta do that. Like, and now I get into like need again, right?
Mhm.
I'm all for systematizing stuff, like for sure. Yeah,
Got you. I mean, not stuff, but
yeah.
just the moment, like, in that spiritual vibe. I feel it. Thank you for clarifying on that. Yeah, so my question was about you had us watch the team. You gave us a video by Cameron Harold about leadership and how to think as a CEO and what some of the core principles of being a growing CEO is. And I was so impacted by it. And one of the things that he said on that video was that the job of the CEO is to give vision and to essentially coach and inspire. And so those are two things that that CEO should focus on. And it just kind of made me nervous because I was like, okay, well, how do you do that, coach and inspire and raise people's talent levels up if that is only going to cause you to create superstars or what we would call killers in a good way that eventually leave you and create, you just basically just coach people out of the company essentially.
Right.
Like, how do you deal with that? Because that makes me nervous when I think about my business and the people that I'm trying to, help and grow. How do we, get out of that mindset?
Yeah, so whether it's team members that you're coaching and growing, or it's your clients you're coaching and growing, and now like eventually they might become competitors or something, like, or like just stop being clients because now they don't need you anymore. Like, to me, that's success, right? Like the classic thing is like, I think who was it that was writing about that? I forget, like some famous psychologist writing about that in his book, recognizing that in his early days as a therapist, he felt threatened if his clients started to feel too good, because then they might not need him anymore. And so he would do something to kind of sabotage them so that they would remain clients. And also just so he didn't have to feel bad about himself. Like if they were way more, happy, successful, fulfilled than him, that would make him feel like crap. So there's a classic story or phrase or whatever in leadership, which is, it's like someone is like, hey boss, what if we invest in all our employees and give them all this training and then they go leave? And the CEO says, well, what if we don't and they stay? It's the risk that you have to take, right? And it's not so much obviously, like we want great people to stay with us forever. That's amazing. And so, but we don't, it's a free country, it's a free society. We can't force people. We don't want to force people. It's the trick is to create an environment that's so attractive, and a working relationship and what you do work that's so meaningful and so attractive that people are like, well, I could go out and find a job or start my own thing, but I don't want to because this is way more fun and way more meaningful and purposeful for me than doing that, right? And then also know that some people are going to go do their own thing and surpass you. And for you as a teacher, the best thing that can happen is that your students surpass you. Like, how amazing is that? That you create people who go out on and do just like way more amazing things than you ever could. Like, it's just incredibly rewarding when you're not coming from a scarcity mindset of there's not enough people, there's not enough resources, there's not enough success or acknowledgement or love or whatever it is that you're doing this for. Like, if you drop the scarcity mindset and you live in abundance, there's plenty of all of the things that I want in the world. There's lots of it. So this person, if I help this person grow and succeed and do amazing shit, and I don't need the acknowledgement for it, but I just know that I was part of that. And it feels really good to just be there for another human being. And there's plenty of other people. Like, I don't need to manufacture anyone who needs me. Like, I don't need to artificially create a need for a job and hold people in it, or create a need for me as their coach, or like for in that way create like a need for a client, there's plenty of people to play with out there. So yeah, let it sort itself out. And part of my goal as well, my ambition is to create a company that produces financial independence for everybody, right? For our clients, obviously, for our members. We want all of you guys to be financially independent, but I also want all team members to have a path to financial independence and create a work environment that is so meaningful that you want to keep working because it's fun, because it fills you with meaning and purpose, and you get to be part of an incredible team, and you're not doing it for the money. I'm not looking for people who are looking to do the job for the money, regardless, at any level, right? I want people who are bought into the mission, into the value, the meaning of what we're doing, and are doing it because they genuinely enjoy coming to work every day and doing this with us.
That's amazing, man. I was a true story. I was telling my sister the other day, is that just how excited I am to think that like I actually get paid to kind of learn the stuff that I learned, because you give us tremendous resources, and you're just like, even this show is just so enlightening. It's like, I get paid to do this. I'm like, this is amazing. And I think I can resonate with what you're saying for sure.
That's amazing, man. I love hearing that. I love hearing that. And it's so cool to think like that reality of like, I can't believe I get paid to do this, right? That's the feeling that we all can have, right? No matter what it is that we're doing, that's what you want, right? Whether it's you as a coach or educator consultant, or it's, you as employee, whatever it is at any level, like that feeling, I can't believe I get paid to do this. It's insane. Like that's what we want, and it's possible. And when you believe it's possible, then you can make it happen. If you don't believe it's possible, it's not going to happen. Like we can play with this, right? Like what is the big dream that if this was reality for you, you would be like, holy crap, like, wow, this is just like, it feels amazing. I feel so alive. I feel so blessed. I feel so fortunate to be able to do this and get paid this well for it. Like take a moment right now and just picture that in your head. What does that look like? And allow yourself to feel the reality of this. And you can even like have a little smile on your face, and you'd be like, I can't believe that this is real for me. Like I get to experience this. I get to live this. Like how freaking lucky I am. And just enjoy the feeling of that. And then if there's a little voice or a tension, a tightness in the body somewhere, or maybe it's your grandmother who's like, yeah, the trees don't grow into heaven, or like whatever that voice is, whatever that resistance is, I want you to notice that. And then ask yourself if you would be willing to let go of that resistance. You don't have to let go of it. You don't have to know how to let go of it. All we care about in this moment is, are you willing to let go of that resistance, of that voice, of that part of you? See if you can find that sense of complete kind of peace in your body, of like really seeing it, not even just believing that it's possible, but knowing that it's already a reality. It's already done. It's already done. It already exists. You just have to orchestrate a few things and allow it all to unfold, and it will be yours. It will be real. And then we can take it one step further. And so today is November 10, 2022. So imagine that it is now November 10, 2023. It's a year from today. And you think back at this moment today and how you are visualizing this reality, and you think back and you're like, holy crap, how, like, it was so easy. Like now that it's all real, now that it's all here, like I can't believe just how ridiculously easy it was. Like, remember back on November 9, 2022, when I was like, I was like, oh, I don't think this is ever going to happen. I don't know. I'm struggling and all that stuff. And then like, and now a year later, it's there. And it was the journey to make it happen was just the most delightful, easy, stress-free, uncomplicated thing ever. And if you want to chuckle it a little bit, that's okay. Like, just like, I can't believe I was so stubborn. I was so full of resistance and anxiety around this thing. I was trying to control everything. And like, in reality, it was just like, it was just so damn easy. And if you can get that feeling, that really starts to get the wheels in motion where now you can actually draw that into your reality and becomes so much easier. So Gay Hendricks did this exercise with me 11 years ago, actually almost 12 years ago. My wife and I had just moved to New York, or we were in the process of moving to New York. Actually, I lied. It's 9 years ago. So it was in 2013. We're just in the process of moving to New York, and we're struggling to find a place to live. New York is not the easiest place to find an apartment, let alone a house. And we were struggling. We were putting out ads, and we were like responding to ads and applying and all that. And most places were like, you know, we got seriously outbid on just rentals, or they wanted 13 months rent paid in cash up front. It's like, we're like, yeah, we don't, because I was self-employed, so no payroll, you know, official payroll kind of thing. We're like, yeah, we don't know anything, we don't trust you. And in New York, they don't accept any guarantors outside of what's known as the tri-state area, like outside of New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. So if you have a billionaire uncle in California who was willing to be a guarantor, they don't give a crap about that unless he puts the cash down today, right? So anyway, we're struggling. And then I did this exercise, Gay Hendricks did this exercise with me. And like just a few days later, so first someone who was on my mailing list replied back and said, hey, I live in Queens. I've got a spare bedroom. If you want to come stay here while you're searching, like you're more than welcome. You can stay as long as you want. So we actually did that. And then this woman from the building that we ended up living at, the leasing agent lady, she kept chasing us like, yeah, no, we can make this happen. You can get this apartment. I'll connect you with this company who does that guarantor thing. And I'll make it happen and push from my side to make sure that they do the thing. And like, we did that and we moved in, and it was just super smooth and super easy. And it was like the best experience ever. I can still remember, like we got the apartment, we got the keys to the apartment. We had to rush through Midtown traffic to the office of the guarantor to deliver first to the bank to get a banker's checks, and then to the guarantor office to hand deliver it with a taxi with all our stuff. And then the taxi was like, hey, it's at the end of my shift. And so we had to dump all of our stuff on the sidewalk, and my wife waited there while I went and rushed up with the check to get the papers. And he called over and said, they're good to go. And we went over, signed the papers, got the keys, and it was like 6 p.m. or something. And then we got in a taxi. We didn't have a bed to sleep in. So then we got in a taxi and went to Brooklyn to IKEA to buy bed and like just towels and whatever, all the stuff that you need. And got out of there just as they one of the last people to check out. It was like 10 p.m. or something, 10:30. They're closed. All of the car services were done. So like we're standing there on the sidewalk with our bed and all that stuff, and like 11 p.m. trying to figure out like, how the fuck do we get this home now? And then my wife managed to tackle some driver with a truck and get him to drive our stuff home, and then finally back home 11:30 something, and then starting to assemble an IKEA bed. And it was the funnest thing ever. We had such a great time with it. So anyway, that exercise of like thinking back from a year in the future of just how easy it is can be super powerful. I think the way it works is it starts to just dissolve that resistance again, to that commitment to, oh, it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, all of that. So it can be easy again. the way it's supposed to be. Like life's supposed to be easy. Life's supposed to be fun and joyful. And it is when you let it be. Yeah. All right, we got time. If someone wants to just jump on and comment on some of the stuff or share your experience, like what is it that what were you visualizing and what came up for you? I'd love to hear from one of you guys. I saw Kenneth talk about getting his kids back. Yeah. And also, and that's amazing. Like really feel the energy of that and feel complete peace with things being the way they are. Right? Like trust that God knows what he's doing. The universe knows what it's doing. There's nothing wrong in the universe except your idea that something's wrong. So trust that everything's right for this moment. Doesn't mean that it stays that way. But right this moment, everything is perfect just the way it is. Drop all the resistance and then open up for that creative space where you can land the right next move, whatever that is. Yeah. And
You've got Ann.
let's hear.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I really resonate. I've lived it, I've experienced it, just what you're talking about, where you kind of get into that stream and things happen. So how, and I feel like it's the same principle, but I feel like there's just been more hurdles or obstacles business-wise. So how do I embrace that to feel like it has the same ease and flow and stream and just all things business?
Yeah. What are just one example of a hurdle?
I don't know if it's just part of like whatever my childhood wounding would be, because it's like I was raised by a father who was very strong in purpose, and he kind of like got us to believe that you have to follow the purpose that he has laid out. And so, yeah, I can actually even relate it to that story that you had about the wedding. And it's like, even if someone isn't doing that same purpose of success the way that they would see it, they would just kind of like move over you at the table. Well, this person's doing this and this person. And so anyway, yeah, just embracing more my own unique way of doing business. I just feel like I've had my own resistance in the way, even though I live all these principles you're talking about.
Yeah, but the thing is like, there's always another level to that, right? Like the unconscious mind is a million times more powerful when it comes to processing power than our conscious mind, right? It's like 40 inputs per second versus 40 million inputs per second that their processing capability. So you're always going to be peeling off additional layers of your unconscious that now become conscious when you're ready. And so I think it's part of it. I know that part of my journey has been, well, this shit doesn't work because like I'm doing all the things, but I'm not getting the results. But I wasn't doing all of the things, right? There's still resistance, and there still is resistance. And that's part of the journey too. So not having resistance to the resistance, right? So when you're seeing, like this is like I'm being redirected here. Like this is not the result that I was after, but here clearly is the result. All right, let me just acknowledge that as information that maybe there's some part of me, maybe there's some part of me that wanted that, or that created that, was committed to that on some level. And can I be okay with that? I'm not saying it is there, but I can be open to the idea that maybe it's there and not have judgment on that, not make myself wrong for that. Like never, ever make yourself wrong, right? And never make reality wrong either. So it's just approaching it with curiosity. Like, what do I want to do from here? And what might I learn? And for me, always going back to the physical sensations in the body. Like, what am I noticing in the body? If there's tension somewhere, I don't need to make up a story about what it is, but can I just be aware of the tension and then consciously let go of it just in this moment? Does that resonate?
It does. And
Yeah,
it's like, I feel that stream of like, okay, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be easy. I feel that with my health. I feel that in a lot of areas of my life, even in relationships. And then I look at like, and I really got a lot out of the episodes when you talked about like, where are we making things complicated, or we create these fires, even though they are real and things we have to, I mean, I've been really looking at that. Okay, where am I creating fires? That's complicating the whole process. So I guess it's just figuring out how to embrace business, my entrepreneurship, my way, because I've had success doing it more when it was sort of in the family stream of how we were raised to do it very easily. And so I'm kind of the first member of our family who's doing it more on my own terms, my way. So I'm kind of going against the stream of how, what was easy in our default mode, I guess. And yeah. And so I'm just really looking to embrace that same level of ease within the way that's my own unique way I'm doing business now.
Right. So it sounds like there's a habitual way of doing things that now feel like, yeah, that's been my process and that has delivered results, but it's not really me. It's not really true for me. So now you're finding another way of doing it. And that's a little bit wobbly. And I think that's okay. Right. Like it's new. And if you have any story that says, well, if it's wobbly, then like, what do my family think of me? Or what does that mean about me? Or like any of that stuff, let go of that, right? And just embrace and love the journey, and learning to walk is wobbly, right? It's like just how that process is. So that's okay. And play with it, have fun with it. Be like, oh, that didn't work. Fun. What else can we do? Like, let's try something else, right? Like it's just play. It's just fun, and like it's like it's an adventure, right? All of a sudden, versus like all this stuff I know, like I could keep doing that, but what's fun in that? Let's go on an adventure. What? Where is this going to lead? Who knows? This is exciting.
Yeah, when you cross the threshold from like whatever way you were doing business before, and then let's say just you started Simplero, like, and now it was in a whole new way. And like, instead of working for a company or whatever it was for you, how did you navigate the wobble, other than like everything we've talked about today, to not have it be a long, bumpy ride?
The way to make it not a long, bumpy ride is to have no judgment on the wobble and just course correct quickly. Right. So whenever shit, like, you're going to mess up a million times. And if you go be like, oh, damn, why did I do that? And I'm always such a fuck up and I always do it wrong. And why can't I just like do what my parents do or taught me, or like my brother's doing, or like whatever that is, like all of that stuff is just a complete waste of time. The more that you just be like, oh, that was interesting. Now what? Like, let's like, oh shit, I got lost in like my old way of doing it. Or I got like, now I overcorrected and did it like way too much on the other side. Like whatever it is, like the less judgment you have on that, and the faster you just notice it and be like, all right, let's do this thing. And then, I mean, the other thing is find some peers or some mentors to learn from, right? Someone that you see is doing things in a way that you want to do it, or that there are aspects of it that you want to R&D, rob and duplicate, and then learn from them. Like whether you take them on as a paid mentor or someone that like an official mentorship, or you're just like, that person, I'm gonna like follow you on the Instagrams and see, like, or whatever, like, I'm just gonna copy what you're doing. I think there's a lot of value in literally copying someone else. There's a lot of kind of like, oh, you have to be original, and like shit, like we're all copying each other, let's be honest, right? And like, I'm not talking about like stealing people's like copyrights or anything like that. But I think, like, how do kids learn to speak? They just emulate their parents, right? How do we learn anything? We emulate other people. A lot of copywriters will tell you that they got really good at copywriting by taking great copy and then rewriting it by hand, by handwriting, longhand, right? As a way to internalize their way of thinking. So don't feel wrong about that. Like, copy other people verbatim and feel like as you do it, kind of step into their way of being
Mhm.
and try that on and notice where it's jarring with your old way of being, and what part of that is about, oh, this feels a little bit new but uncomfortable but very right. And then like, okay, now I just need to let go of the resistance and settle into that. And which parts are, oh, this feels a little off because like that's his way, that's not my way, but I can take these elements, right? So
Mhm.
learn to distinguish there.
Do you feel you've done that? That was part of your process?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'll still do that. I'll still
Yeah.
do that. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so when I got into, it's kind of fun, exciting, actually. I recently got connected with Jeff Walker's brother, John, who's the one who's running all of Jeff Walker's stuff, product launch formula guy.
Yeah.
But my intro into the information marketing world was Jeff Walker's product launch formula program back
Mhm.
on my
Yeah.
birthday, March 27, 2008. And I bought his program. And what I did in the beginning was specifically, I obviously learned, listened to the recordings to learn the concept. It was video content. I would take that, I would convert it to audio and put it into, because I'm a geek. So then I put it into like a podcast or audiobook format and take it on my phone, and I'd listen to it while I was walking. My son was newborn and he wouldn't sleep, and we had this thing where we'd get up in the middle of the night and start walking him down the snow-filled roads in the neighborhood. So I'd be up at like 3-4 a.m. walking with a baby carriage with my son, trying to make him sleep. But then I'd be listening to Jeff Walker talk all this marketing stuff, and I'd obviously be listening for the strategies and the tactics, but more importantly, I was listening to how he was being. I was trying just through the tone of his voice.
Mhm.
What is the state of his being? It's something that I love to do with like people in general, like sometimes just like people watching, right? I was seeing people who are walking, and I'll be like, if I had to walk the same way that he's doing, like holding my body and my posture in the same way, like how would I feel inside? Like what would be the story? What would be kind of the beliefs inside of me? Like you can do that with the voice too. Just listening to someone's voice, like how are they relating to themselves? How's this person relating to their work? And just, you don't have to understand it in a like logical left brain reason. It's more like a right brain type listening. And then take it on and feel like, oh, okay. Like which parts are useful for me? Which parts show me a way for me to evolve here?
That's great. I love that. Yeah. Reminds me of that book, Steal Like an Artist. And I feel like it's been even more permission listening to you on these shows to just like not have to feel like you have to create everything on your own to blaze your path.
Right. And I think it's the difference is, I love that you said that. The difference is if you're coming from a place of using other people to find your unique path, right? To live your soul purpose,
Right.
then 1,000%, right? Because it's always going to be yours. If you're coming from a place of scarcity and fear, and you're like, and you're just like, I just need to make money. I just need to like do whatever. I'm going to steal this and just copy it and like clone like Anne's offers and just make, like that. I mean, it's not the stealing part that makes that crap. It's all the other stuff that makes it bad.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Great. Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, you guys, this has been awesome. We should do this again. So I have, fun story. So next week, we're not going to have a show. And the reason why is that I have to show up in traffic court in Manhattan because according to a cop, I violated a red light on a bicycle in Manhattan in 2019. And my court date has been moved from then to like due to COVID to now end of 2022. So one of the guys that I met with, one of my friends from Baby Bathwater, is this guy, Jesse Elder. And he is big on, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the kind of the sovereignty movement that say like that the government doesn't actually have any jurisdiction over us. And something with a corporation in our name, and like only if we agree to it. So he's taught me, like, if you ever get pulled over by a cop in a car and they ask to see license and registration, you tell them that they actually have no right to ask for that, because only if it's a commercial vehicle is there any licensing requirements, registration, any of that stuff. As long as it's a personal conveyance and it's just you as a citizen, then they have no business telling you anything. Good luck with that. I don't know. That's gonna so he was coaching me on my court date next week, and I recorded it, so I have to go back over it again. But basically to the effect of, like, just not acknowledging, like, the city of New York is just a corporation that claims to have jurisdiction over me, but they don't unless I give them that jurisdiction. So I'm trying to figure out if I actually have the balls to go in and be like, you have no jurisdiction over me, and I don't acknowledge anything that this court says. We'll see. We'll see what I do. So yeah. So yeah, we're gonna miss a week, but we'll be back the week after, hopefully, unless they arrest me for something. Who knows? All right. I'll see you all in 2 weeks. It's been such a great to hang with you guys. I love you very much. Appreciate you being here. See you all soon.